If you're looking for support in your life or business, look no further. We have opened applications from now until the end of September for new coaching clients. Head on over to sashadavis.com/apply now to see if you're a great fit for my style of coaching. Can't wait to connect. One of the things that I've come to understand these past few years, this last decade, is that people are scared shitless of like everything. Like people are terrified, and I just can't really wrap my head around it. And so as a mentor, I'm always trying to connect the dots for my clients. Like, why are you scared? What is that belief? How would you feel without that thought? What if we could clear that belief and you could feel freedom from that thought? A lot of times they're like, man, that would feel incredible. But I find that I'm unique in this sense, is that when I feel fear, I'm like, ooh, what is that? And I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because I numbed myself for so long at a young age. I just couldn't express emotion. I just like shoved everything deep down, and then I'd like drink a bunch of alcohol or, do stupid shit to try to numb the pain. And now I find that I almost enjoy feeling those feelings or emotions. I won't want to say like I enjoy pain or things like that, but like anytime something uncomfortable comes up, I'm like, oh, what am I going to learn from this? And so it's almost like I crave it. And maybe that's the adrenaline junkie side of me. But I find that like people are just terrified of fucking everything, like everything. People are living in fear, and then they wonder why this manifests in their life as disease or illnesses or anxiety or depression. It's because they're not allowing the things to just freely move through them and to really truly experience life. So ask yourself, do you really feel alive in this moment? Like, when's the last time you truly felt alive? When I was asked this question earlier this year, surprisingly, the last time everybody really felt alive is when they were giving birth. Isn't that crazy? Like, what? You gotta be kidding me. And not that that's not an experience that you should truly feel alive, but what would it feel like to feel alive more often? Like, how amazing would that feel if you're just like, every day I feel alive. And like, even like me saying that gives me goosebumps, which makes me feel alive. Like I have a reaction. And so some things that people say that they're scared of not enough time on this earth. They're scared of losing people. They're scared of money. They're scared of what other people think. Another really big one is fear of failure. Like, what happens if I fail? And I'm like, if you're not failing, you're not fucking trying. Like, one of my mentors shared something with me the other day, and she goes, this dude reminds me of you. And I was like, all right, what's this all about? And so I listened to the podcast, and I was like, this guy is my freaking spirit animal. And I loved everything that he was saying because he just didn't give a shit. He just went out there and did things and was successful because he tried something a million different times. And if it didn't work, you pivot. And that's what life's about. Like trial and error, throw things at the wall and see what sticks. And people are so scared to just try things. And I'm like, why? Nobody cares. Everybody is so wrapped up in their own head that they're not paying attention to what you're doing. And if they are, they have some serious shit going on in their head because they are obviously caring way too much about what other people are doing. And that's not healthy for them. So I want to say to you, what in your life are you scared to try? And not saying that you should like up and quit your job, because that's like the number one thing that I get when I talk to people. I attract a lot of people who want to say like, fuck this. Fuck everybody, I'm quitting my job, I'm throwing middle fingers up and throwing a bomb and walking away. And that's not okay. I mean, it feels okay to like think it in your brain, but don't really go do that unless you are really, really, really ready to take action. I mean, I was that person that I was like, fuck this, I'm fucking leaving, I'm done. And I did, I quit, and I was like, all right, time to make shit happen. When you force yourself into a corner, what option do you have, right? You make it happen. So make yourself really uncomfortable. What if this was life or death? What would you choose? What do you want to say to yourself when you're, When you're 65 years old, or 65, like 85, 95, 105, are you going to look back and be like, I wish I would have lived more? And I know I say this all the time, you guys. I know I say it all the time, but sometimes people need to hear things 6, 7, 8, 20, 30 times before they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Sasha said this one thing about living with no regrets. Have you ever seen Meet the Millers? It's like a movie where they all are like in an RV going to Mexico to get drugs or something, and they come back and they go to this carnival. And so this is kind of like a joke that me and my husband say. But there's like this kid that's got like long hair, and he's got like a wife beater. And I probably shouldn't call it that. That's probably not the technical. Somebody's going to come at me and be like, it's not a wife beater. That's the wrong thing to say. Because, we're all about offending people, right? I can't fucking say anything without offending somebody. What are they called? They're like white tank tops. It's a wife beater. Whatever. And so he has a tattoo across his chest that says no regrets or something like that. It's supposed to say no regrets, but it's spelt wrong. So I'm always like, no regrets, yo. And anyways, yeah, you want to just like have fun with life. Anytime something bad happens, I'm like, is it really that serious? And sometimes it's that serious. But then in the grand scheme of things, I try to think, even when we lose loved ones, I'm like, I'm going to see them again someday. And it'll all be okay. It will all work out. It's just, we're put on this earth. Our soul is put into this body on this earth in this given time to live and to learn and to enjoy the time that we do have before we kind of cross over and live another life. And sometimes it helps me to think of me as a Sims person. You guys ever seen the video game? I've actually never played it. I've just seen it. I'm not a video gamer by any means. I used to be when I was like in middle school. I had an obsession with Need for Speed and Donkey Kong. But that's neither here nor there. Now I don't even know the last time I played a video game. But I know what the Sims game is because like you're like pretending to be other people. And so I have to think of like my higher consciousness is like pretending that like me in this physical body is like my Sims person. And I'm like, ooh, what's the Sims person's next step? And a lot of times when we remove ourselves from like our ego version of our brain, it's easier for us to see the bigger picture, see that like aerial view of like what's happening in your life. Because if you think of your life as a Sims game, right? There's a start, there's a middle, there's a finish. You buy some houses, you get some money, you do some shit along the way. Sometimes you can see what the end result is if you just remove yourself from like the ego part of like, oh, this is hard, my life sucks, all the things are happening to me, I wish I was farther along, what if this person says something to me, or I always fail, or I'm always a procrastinator, or I never save money, or whatever your story is, because let's be honest, they're all freaking stories that we just tell ourselves. They're not actually true. They're not actually true. How does that feel? Ugh, if I tell you that the story you've been telling yourself for this many years is not true, that might feel like a punch in the gut, but it's not true, so quit telling yourself that. Anyway, so if you look at your life as like an overview of a Sims game, sometimes you can see like, oh my gosh, if I just get through this deep, dark forest, there's a pot of gold on the other side. And then, oh, look, another baby. And oh, look, a bigger house. And oh, look, a successful business. And oh, shit, well, somebody died in my life, so that kind of sucks. I got to process that because life happens, right? There's good and there's bad. But if I look around this corner, this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And so sometimes if you like just get your little aerial view going, what do they call them? A drone. Like put a drone above your life and look down and say, where am I? Who am I? Where do I want to be? And how do I take steps to get there? Remove yourself from the immediate now. Because if you think about it, now is past. Now is already in the past. People say be present. Yes, be present, be here, be now, but the now is also in the past. So don't like dwell there. I like to think a little bit in the future. Not so far in the future that I'm like, I need to figure out the next 1,500 steps to be successful. No, I usually just focus on what's the next right step. I have an overview of what I want my life to look like, but I'm not worried about the next 1,500 steps. I'm worried about the next right action step that I need to take, the highest leverage action step, not the million teeny tiny little action steps that make me look really busy but aren't actually productive. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you have 5 sales calls to make, but instead you twiddly-do around in your email, doing busy work that's not actually productive or helping anybody. We do this in our life too. We're like, oh, I really should start that business that I want to do, but the dishes just have to be done. Do they really? Do you think that you could just maybe go create that website really quick and then do the dishes? Because you would probably get a lot more done that way. Or hire somebody out to do your freaking dishes. It's just all about mindset stuff. And so this is where a mentor comes in too. They can kind of call you out on your shit, because a lot of times we just come up with these stories. And so when somebody comes in from a different perspective and is like, hey, it's okay to think this way. It's okay to do things this way. It's okay to do things differently. You don't have to repeatedly bounce your head against a wall. Like, you can have support to have the things that you want in life. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to be different. It is okay to be different. And that's probably one of the number one things that I've learned, is that it's okay to be different. I have found that I have numerous different ways of achieving something that are not mainstream. People look at me all the time and they're like, you're fucking crazy. And I'm like, great, but it works. Go mind your business. But then people are coming at me saying, how did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? I'm like, I'll show you exactly how I did it, but I'm not going to do it for free. It took me a long time to learn these skills. It took me a lot of trial and error. I fell on my face lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of times. I still fall on my face lots of times. I still start other businesses and I'm like, oh, did this go well or did this not go well? I just look at everything as like an experiment. It's just life. Life is meant to be living. Life is not meant to be the same thing over and 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 over again. That's when you get bored. That's when things get complacent. That's when you lose your passion and that fire, that spark inside of you that craves change, that craves adventure. Think about it. What do you want in your life? A lot of times people have like this really chaotic life. They've created that chaos in their life. You're the one signing your kid up for 1 million different sports. You're the one that's working 18 million jobs. You're the one that says yes to freaking everything. I know, because I did it too. Saying no to people is one of the hardest things that I had to do. I actually had to say no to something like a few days ago, and it made me almost want to puke. I was like, something that I felt like I should do because I really respect the person. And I'm like, I feel like if I don't say yes to this, she's gonna, like, my fear is that people are always gonna leave me. They're just gonna be like up and leave and be like, F you, Sasha, peace out. So I'm like, God, if I tell her no, she's gonna tell me fuck off. She's just gonna leave and she's gonna tell me to fuck off and she's gonna never talk to me again. And here we are. And I guess I just have to be okay with that. So I had to process all of that before I said no, because I'm like, you have to be okay with people leaving you. You have to be so comfortable and confident in yourself and what it is that you want, that's best for you, that you are okay with telling other people no. If it doesn't fit into your big picture, if it doesn't fit into alignment with what you are doing right here, right now, it is okay to say no. It doesn't mean that you have to say no forever. Maybe it's a yes later on. Maybe that makes you feel better. The whole goal here is to choose better feeling thoughts, because when you start to choose better feeling thoughts, when you start to not be afraid of yourself or offending people or doing things that bring you joy or even a little bit of, they bring change and they bring discomfort, but they bring also adventure and excitement, right? So just start to choose thoughts, words, emotions that feel better. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. That's just the truth. It's just the truth. I still learn from people. I'm never going to learn all of the things, even though I want to. Like, learning is contagious for me. Like, I just cannot get enough. Like, it's an addiction, guys. And I have to actually like limit myself how much I read books and do podcasts and invest in like myself, because sometimes I'm so busy learning that I'm like, oh yeah, I have these other businesses to run and I have like this life to live. So I have to like limit how much information I absorb. And I'm an action taker. I'm an implementer. So as soon as I learn something, I'm like, ooh, let's go try this skill. Ooh, let's go try this skill. And I'm constantly just experimenting with life, like what works and what doesn't. And just because something works for the person next to you doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. That's where you have to turn into your inner guide and your intuition and say, what works for me? What works for me? I saw a meme the other day that said something, we could all have the same exercises and eat the same food, but our bodies would all respond differently and we would all look differently. Frickin' men, people, frickin' men, because just because it works for one person does not mean that it works for you. We're each unique and incredible in our own respect. Think about it. If everybody was the same person, if we all looked the same, if we all acted the same, we'd just be freaking robots. We wouldn't be human beings. We would all just be programmed to do the exact same thing. That's not really a life worth living. I don't think anybody wants that, right? So that's where freedom of choice and how you want to think, act, and feel about what it is that works for you. That's why we have carpenters and bankers and coaches and podcasters and artists and dancers and travelers. Like, that's why we have all of these things, because they're all unique to you and what brings you joy, not what brings the other person joy. You know, I love horseback riding. I love being out in nature. I love adventure. I love adrenaline stuff. Like just yesterday, I was like Googling the nearest place to go skydiving because I'm like, ooh, maybe I'll surprise my husband with a skydive. Who knows? That might happen here pretty soon. And some people are like, you're insane. I would never do that. And that's okay. Those aren't my people. I want to surround myself and I want to help those people who have that spark of adventure in them, where they're like, I want to take things, I want to see how good it can get. Like, how good can it get? Like, I'm done being scared. I'm done being afraid. I'm done being anxious. I'm done worrying about what other people think. I want to educate myself and I want to feel empowered and I want to feel confident and I want to be able to go do adventurous things and not think twice about it. I actually want to live my life and I want to have some fun while I'm doing it, because if it's not fun, what's the freaking point? And that's one of the things that I love about my style of coaching is I like to bring the fun to it. You know, there's a lot of serious shit out there and I can be a very serious person. I do have a lot of knowledge and education and there's a lot of, you know, skills, tools, and resources that I provide people that I work with. But at the same time, I bring a fun aspect to it, because I find that when you pair something that's a very serious and rough transition, yes, you want to feel that pain. Yes, you want to feel that change. Yes, you want to feel that discomfort. You need to allow it to move through you. But then sometimes it's nice to have that comic relief, right? Because, like, let's be honest, it can be really hard to feel heavy shit all the time. And so I always just laugh. People think I'm crazy, but whatever. I use laughter as a relief of anything all the time. Like, I'm that person that's at a funeral and I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh my God, everybody's crying at the same time. Like, and I would just like think of something that was funny about the person that died and I'd start laughing and I'd remember that, like, how much I loved them and how much joy they brought to the world. You know, I would be celebrating their life rather than mourning their loss, if that makes sense. And so I try to always put a positive swing on things so that people don't leave feeling super heavy and worse than they do when they first started talking to me or when they first started talking to the group. I like to have them feel the discomfort, but then, like, let's bring it back. We want to choose better feeling thoughts, because you are in control of how you think, act, and feel. You are the writer. You are the creator. You are the one in the driver's seat. Okay. So let's bring it back and use that momentum, use that feel good to project that forward and create that momentum to, like, continue throughout your day. Because when you feel good, people around you feel good. When you feel good, you have momentum to keep feeling good. When you feel good, you naturally start to choose better feeling thoughts. So how can we get you feeling good all the time? And people also think I'm crazy for this, because they're like, it's impossible to feel good all the time. Is it? Or is that just a belief that you have? Like, have you ever had a week where you're like, man, this whole week has just been incredible. It has been incredible. And then all of a sudden your brain starts to self-sabotage and you're like, nope, any day now it's going to get worse. Any day now something's going to happen. This streak is going to go. And you start to self-sabotage yourself. And then before you know it, you have like 4 or 5 bad days or 4 or 5 bad weeks. And you're like, I fucking knew it. It was going to happen. Da 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 da. It happened because that's where your vibration went. It happened because that's where your brain went. And as women, I tend to see this happen about every 4 weeks. That's the beauty of our cycle too. And I know this podcast is kind of all over the place, you guys. I am a wealth of knowledge. I have all of this information stored in my brain, and I just want to share it with people. I want to help people heal. I want to help people see the light. I want people to feel good and go after the things that they want to do in life without fear, without regrets, without second guessing themselves, because you know what's best for you. And I just want to help give you permission that it is okay to do that. And I want to give you the steps and the tools to make it happen. And I'm going to hold space for you. I'm going to hold you accountable. That's one thing that I do in my coaching. And I know maybe a lot of other programs are like that. I don't fucking know. I don't go around creeping on everybody's programs. I just know for me, it's like, hey man, like you said you want to do this, like let's make it happen. I'm not going to drag you, but I'm sure shit going to be there saying like, you want this. You told me you wanted this. Why are you changing your mind? Why are you going back on yourself? Why are you giving up on you? Okay. And that's it. So don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Life is worth living, guys. Take chances, take risks. What's the worst that's going to happen? Think about it. Write it down. What's the worst case scenario? You lose everything and then you start back over? Abundance is all around you. There's plenty of things that you could be doing. There's plenty of jobs. There's plenty of houses. There's plenty of pets to adopt. There's plenty of children to adopt. There's plenty of partners out there to find. There's more fish in the sea. There's going to be another boat coming in. There's going to be another train going by. There's going to be another car that can come pick you up. Like, it's fine. Everything's fine. There's nothing that serious happening. Everything will be okay. Take risks. Do things that work for you. Stand up for those who don't have a voice too. Like, it is okay to share how you feel. That's another thing that I see right now is everybody's being really filtered about what they're feeling, either about the election or about sex trafficking or about COVID, all this shit. And I just find it very, very interesting that, and not that you have to like share that stuff publicly. I mean, I don't share a lot of that stuff publicly, but I sure as shit share it in real life. If somebody asks me about it, I tell them what I think. I tell them exactly what I think. Don't ask me if you don't want to know. Because you may or may not like it, and that's okay. And we just have to learn to accept a difference of opinion too. Just because we feel a certain way about what somebody else is viewing doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. Did you know that there can be more than one truth? Just because it's true for me doesn't mean that it's true for you, and what's true for you doesn't have to be true for me. Isn't that interesting? Think about that. Just because it's truth to you doesn't mean that it's truth to me. There's differences between your truth, my truth, and universal truth. And I think a lot of people take their truth as universal truth. And that's not true. How's that for a mind fuck? Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. Don't be scared to stand up for what you believe in. Don't be scared to go after your dreams. Don't be scared to take risks. And don't be scared to offend people. What's more uncomfortable? Living a life that you don't really want to be living, or maybe offending a couple people that really weren't in your inner circle to begin with? When you start to say yes to things that make you feel good, you call in more goodness and more people to support you along the way. Have a kick-ass day, guys. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening to the Sasha Davis Podcast. For more information on personal and professional development, we've created a master list of all of the resources discussed in the podcast and the blog. So head on over to sashadavis.com/resources for our full list.